And so by understanding that we are at a coach position and not necessarily a boss position, now we come to understand, like, okay, I'm going to tell them what to do, but it's up to them what they want to do. And some people have a harder time processing that, right? I've learned recently that sometimes the best thing that you can do for somebody, even though you know the right thing, even though you have a feeling that you know the right thing for them, it's good for them to make a mistake anyways. And then they learn through that along the way.
Look, hell of an intro. I tell you what you info, but I never really been the type of dude to give no info. But if you see your ends low and you trying to get a benzo, I'll give your ass some game that'll change the way that you think, bro. Super skilled with the pencil, super ill in my mental. I reminisce on life, I'm nice, here's my memento. Get it through your tempo, I get on any tempo and give it all I got. I'm hot, I got like 10 flows, trying to live on the 10th flow. Across from residentials that I own, my mind stayed grown. I used to think clothes, I really used to think hoes and what I do to get those. And then I switched it up, I'm only thinking potential. Yeah, like what you do, homie? What's your vision? How you thinking? How you move, homie? And is you cool, homie? You thinking building, then that's something we could do, homie.
Welcome everyone, it's Walk and Grow, and it's Roney and Francis on the mic. This is the one place where you get to empower your mind and transform your reality, and the best part is you get to do it with us. Sometimes you'll hear us rant back and forth, or maybe sometimes you'll hear from a guest like today to be able to share their perspective on their life and their experiences so that you can go ahead and learn from them, because it's not just only us, it's other people as well, and we want to be able to hear from you as well. So make sure you to DM us, hashtag Grow Together, or email us that so that we can go ahead and share your story and your perspective. But I want to say first and foremost, thank you, Andre, for joining us today, man. How are you doing?
Bless, man. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now you guys are probably like, "Who's Andre?" Don't worry, I'm gonna get into the introduction. I just wanted to make sure everybody's doing good. Francis, you good? You good?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm ready.
There it is. There it is. But yes, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say welcome, Andre. We can't wait to hear from you, and I know our audience would love to hear your perspective.
So here's Andre, just so you guys know, like, who is this guy? Why do we even have him here? He has a story to share, as everybody we always bring on here, and his story is going to really be for those individuals that are looking to get deeper into the business, especially in real estate. So Andre and I, we actually met a couple of years ago. We are currently on the same real estate team, so that's kind of what allowed us to come together. And it's interesting how that even inspired, because we all really inspired and came together through a YouTube channel. But if you're not on YouTube, get on YouTube. There's some powerful things that can happen there. But Andre is actually a recent college grad. I call him a traveler because every time I see this man, he's somewhere else doing something outside of his hometown, Jersey. So I don't know. He take it for what he is, but he is a real estate agent. He's also really big in investing in real estate, and he's also a landlord. So don't take it lightly for those individuals that actually want to get into that industry. This is somebody that can give you a little bit more insight as he's going through the motions on a day-to-day basis. And he actually has a new thing coming, which is he's moving somewhere. But I won't say it where just quite yet. We'll get to that. You just got to have to wait in the middle of the episode or the end to find out where, and you'll understand why he's moving. But welcome again, Andre, man. Is there anything that I missed or anything that you kind of want to shed a light on? Because I want everybody to really know who you are.
Yeah, totally, man. You definitely highlighted all the big points, all the highlights of my career thus far. Not only real estate, but even a little bit prior to that. And I'm happy to talk about my journey so far and how it's been. So I definitely want to speak more about the personal wellness aspect outside of being in business. But as important as it is to improve your business, it's important to improve yourself outside of it, because inherently it's correlated. The way that you grow in your business is directly correlated to the way your personal life grows as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the way we like to really kick things off is I want to get to know who you are. So were you always that type of individual to like focus on yourself?
Yeah. I've always gotten I would say I've called them compliments, right? Like they always think that I'm a good listener, and I like to think of myself that way because the truth, my fundamental truth is that the greatest listeners are the greatest speakers too. And so I fully understand where the greatest speakers come from because they're able to digest information, conversation in a higher level than other people do. That's why they're able to speak at such a high level. And I would definitely describe myself as someone that can focus on my own well-being. That way I can take care of others, right? It's not even take care of other people, manage people. You can even manage yourself.
Hmm.
And so growing up, I've always had that same mentality that if I focus on myself and improve on myself, that I will attract the right energy. And when that right energy comes, I'm able to provide that value to them, not only through my time, but throughout my experience of having to focus on the things that I want to build for myself. So it's definitely been a journey, you know. I can't say that I've always been a social person either. Like I was a quiet one in the room. Being in high school, I just I just observed all the things happen in motion. And then 360, like life turns around. Now I'm in my career, and I'm the one reaching out to these people, the same people that I've seen flourish in schools and colleges. So full circle, you know, life happens for you at that time for a reason, not a coincidence.
Yeah, you mentioned. I'm assuming you were once an introvert. Am I on track with that one?
Yeah, I would definitely describe myself as saying I love talking to people, but I love my own space.
Yeah.
You know, like one lesson that I've learned recently is you got to preserve your energy for the right people. Because if you just disperse your energy to all the people that come across you, they're going to want to take all of it. And by the time that you look back and realize how much time have you got for yourself. And that's why the times that I did grow up as an introvert and understanding more about myself, what I like, what I don't like, not only from me, but from other people, allowed me to dissect, really filter out what kind of people that I would want to surround myself with.
Mm-hmm. So at what point? Sorry, go ahead.
And in that transition, that's when I realized, you know, people aren't so bad after all. You know?
All it takes is literally sometimes a high for everything to kind of ease the nerves and kind of go. At what point, at what transition in your life were you realizing that, okay, well, maybe you still may be an introvert, but you're comfortable with actually starting a conversation? And when did you realize that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I started having jobs here and there just to provide myself while I was in school. And then it wasn't until I joined a program in college that teaches people how to network. And so there was a program in my college, where they empower people to use their storytelling as a tool. And then that's when I started realizing power of words. So growing up, I would believe that it's just action, right? You get the job, you get the volunteer hours, you fill up your resume, and someone's gonna see it and like it. Fast forward, when I took that class and realized how much storytelling is a tool and how much powerful words can be, then I realized that it's not only the skill, it's not only the experience that you develop over time, but it's also the way you communicate with people. And so understanding that power and what it can bring to your life gave meaning to me improving myself to become a social person. And that's really where it transitioned. When I realized the power of conversating with people, I just realized that it's something that I can use later on in life. And then it's funny that real estate came around that same summer in my life too.
The world works in circles, as we all may know. It's my last question before I know Francis has one up his sleeve already ready to go. But do you think you needed that class in order for you to really figure that out, or is it just time?
Yeah. Wow, that's really good to think about. I believe that it didn't have to happen, but I do believe that it led up to that moment of my life at that point for a reason. Because if it wasn't for me having to figure out the power of networking, I believe at some point I was going to figure it out in some other way, shape, or form. But the fact that it happened at that point in my life where things were pivoting, I think that it did happen for a purpose.
Yeah.
So I slowly manifested it without even thinking about it. And as my business progressed, I've come to appreciate that and really embrace the idea of uncertainty, because now the best things that did came to me are the ones that came unexpectedly. So I definitely would love to hear more about that, because I know you guys have a lot of visitors, have a lot of guests talking about that too.
A couple of things that stood out to me is how you mentioned that you spend most of your time, taking care of yourself outside the business, well-being, something that's important to you, and maintaining your energy. Now, can you talk a little bit more about how you handle situation when you come across somebody that has a low frequency energy, or or needs your presence or motivation to boost them up a bit? How do you handle those situations?
Totally. I definitely learned knickknacks of figure out the way that people present themselves before I even conversate with them. And so there's three things that I mainly look at from a person before I even have a conversation with them. And those three things are their posture, their tonality, and the way they articulate their words, their conversation, right? And so I've already have initial impressions of this person, and before I even have a conversation with them, you always have to have, like, really, let's face it, when you have a conversation, you have a goal in mind, right? Like, what's the purpose behind it? And so it's the same thing with conversating with clients and someone that you haven't spoken to. They're just matching their energy. And so I love the idea of motivating people and bringing them up to my energy. We got to understand that it's reciprocal, right? So you got to start off by matching their energy first. Like, what is making them unmotivated? Like, what is their purpose behind the way that they're articulating their words? Maybe the way they even stand up and what they talk about. So you got to understand that from that surface level. And ultimately, the same aspect as we talk with the person more and more, because you got to understand that this person probably doesn't even know you. So why should they open up to you about why they do this? And that's why you have to match your energy first. When you match your energy, you let them open up to you until they get more comfortable, right? And it's the same thing with nurturing. It's not the same thing with a plant. You kind of just water it little by little during the conversation. And so the next thing you know, they fully opened up to you.
Right.
And then at that point, now it opens you the opportunity to actually bring them up to where you would want to be. Again, sometimes we tend to forget, well, this energy that we have, it's not within everybody. Maybe it's not even meant for everybody.
Yeah.
So when you do have the opportunity to do it, and you see the right person for it, it's almost like spreading good news. Maybe if it would be wrong not to bring them up to the energy that you want. And so I always have a good impression of people, and thankfully, because we're in real estate, we have conversation all the time with different sorts of people. I mean, I'm helping tenants left and right. And I was just telling my friend who was in a phone call with a tenant, I'm glad to the point where I'm like, they're going to be trouble based on the way they're talking. And my God, like, yo, it happened. Well, I'm just thankful. Yeah, I'm just thankful to be in this industry.
The reason why I asked that is because nowadays you can see that there's a lot of uncertainty with the way we handle things, and we seem to live in a fear-based environment, and it's easy to come across people, especially in the real estate and business industry, where there's a lot of decision making in the process where people are not so excited to go into the process. They just want to sign the document and see the finished product. So you can see the level of energy at the beginning of the process towards at the end when they get the keys and whatnot. So kind of walking them through the process. You mentioned the 3 things you look out for. Now, what are some of the things that you will use, out of your toolbox to help them kind of, be excited about the process or help them navigate the process, whether it's client or
Yeah.
people you're managing?
Yeah, totally. So I've always tried to listen to my clients first before I come up with any solution. Because you got to remember that you always have a solution in mind, and you can tell them what the right thing is for them to do. I've always believed that you can teach a person, but if you only teach them, they'll never learn.
Yeah.
And so my belief is that I can guide you through the process. I can guide you to what has happened in the past and how we can avoid that. But ultimately, it's up to the client to make a decision for them. And that's really our job. Like, think about it as being a coach, right? A coach, you might say, might know better than most of the players they're coaching, but he's not going to make the player come up to the practices. He's not going to make the player want to improve themselves. Only the players can do that. And so by understanding that we are at a coach position and not necessarily a boss position, now we come to understand, like, okay, I'm going to tell them what to do, but it's up to them what they want to do. And some people have a harder time processing that, right? I've learned recently that sometimes the best thing that you can do for somebody, even though you know the right thing, even though you have a feeling that you know the right thing for them, it's good for them to make a mistake anyways. And then they learn through that along the way. So that's something that I've digested not only in my business, but also in my personal life too. And it's those two things are intertwined so much because at the end of the day, real estate is a personal business. And so emotions are constantly involved, right? In real life, it's the same thing, except on a higher level, right? And the easier the more transparent we are with who you are as a person, the easier it's for people to see through you. And I think that's just an aspect that we have to live with, because some people have big walls on top of them, right? They carry big walls because they have to in the past. But if you let them open up first and match their energy, match their level of where they're at, slowly but surely they're going to start opening up to you. So essentially, I've always taken an approach from a passive standpoint. I'm not one to directly come up to a person and shove them ideas. I'm going to hear out that person first and see what they want to do. I can tell them what they need to do, and it's entirely up to them. Because what I also embrace is that 90% of your life is out of your control. And so what the clients do, what happens to my business, and sort of thing, in a certain extent, is out of my control. And the clearer, the more you make peace with that idea, the more you realize that, life is long. Like, it's a long-term game. But there's no such thing as, I don't believe there's any urgency in things. And that's what real estate taught me. There's no urgency in real estate. People just create that urgency.
The media.
Fair.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, I want to touch on, because I want to see how you handle this, because I have a way of handling this, dealing with clients that typically don't listen. And if, let's just say, for instance, you give them something to do and they don't do it, how do you go about dealing with that specifically?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Come across them many times. I mean, the best thing that you can do to retract a question is by another question. So you don't necessarily tell them what to do, but you kind of question them about their motive to see whether or not it would make sense for them in the long run. And questioning something is actually stronger than answering something, because when you allow the other person to make that answer, it gives them a stronger position, and it empowers themselves to follow what you want, follow what they want to be, through your guidance.
Yeah.
So I didn't tell you what to do, but I questioned your motive, and then you came up with the answer yourself. So, man, it's just all sales technique. Like if you're asking me,
Yeah.
like that's what sales really is. It's learning how to be a really great conversational. I mean, the average on running joke that well, take people like just good flirters, you know?
Wow. Hey, I hope you don't have a girlfriend, man.
Enjoying the life, man.
Because if she hears that, man, she might come. She might tell you to quit that industry now.
Yeah.
We're chilling, my man. We're chilling. Life is good.
No, that's good though.
You're
But
giving up all the secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one actually, because I know myself, if I were to navigate someone that isn't necessarily, I guess, following direction or at least moving the process forward, I always like to forward expect. So I kind of forward progress. I put them into the future really quickly and say, hey, is this something that we still need to work towards? Because if that's the case, then hey, we need to take care of this first. So I will always kind of forward expect by giving them what that and of course, like you mentioned, the end goal, the motive, what's the real motive behind it. And instead, I'll go ahead and forward expect, hey, we need this done in order for us to move forward to this next step, and then I'll kind of just guide step by step kind of thing.
Yeah, it's powerful actually. You're asking me about the far future.
Yeah.
It will make sense for them to decide now.
Yeah. So a lot of what we've been talking about is real estate, as everybody knows. But one thing I don't think we talked about yet is what areas do you service ideally, or area?
Yeah. I'm based. Excuse me. I'm based in North Jersey, and so my team and I, we have a team of 16 agents. We're gonna be 20 agents really soon. Good.
Congrats.
We service mostly North and Central Jersey, and North Jersey is anything that's an hour away from New York City.
Gotcha.
And then Central Jersey is about an hour 30 to 2 hours away from the city.
And is there anything in particular that you specialize in?
As far as the type of property?
Yeah, property,
Or
clients, either one. Because you are on both sides, man.
We are. I specialize in multifamily.
Okay. So if anybody is, go ahead.
Yeah. I love handling multifamily buyers because I've been in that same rodeo as well.
Yeah. So if anybody at this point is listening, you just heard it from Andre himself. He said he services Jersey. He said North Jersey specifically, but Jersey with multifamily. So if anybody you're listening to this and you're trying to invest in that area, this is the guy you should definitely connect with, because he'll go ahead and spill all the beans for you. But not only that, he's been through the process himself, so he can share with you a little bit more insight than I can, because I'm in North Carolina, as you guys know. You got to have partners everywhere in the world in order to service and kind of partner and take things a little bit further. But I want to ask, how has investing been for you?
Oh, man. I'm letting go of my last property, actually. It's been 3 years in investing through my first property. And it's been a rewarding process. There's definitely a lot of life lessons, not only in business, but also communication. I learned a whole lot about it. And having to own your own property and manage tenants, a lot of people are kind of worried about managing tenants. And ultimately, it's not that bad at all. I mean, it's almost like it's like owning a company and taking care of your employees. So it's the same concept. Starting out in real estate, I was investing property. And one day my job shut down. My school went online at the time where I was figuring out where I want to go with my college career. And then one day my brother just came up to me and asked me, like, dude, I'm starting into investing class. You want to join? So that's where it all started. So we bought a bunch of properties in a few months. And then as years passed by, we started selling them. We flipped one of them, and now we're selling our last property. And you understand the fundamentals of not only investing in properties, but also using creative financing to buy these properties. Because one day I can tell you, for 90% of these properties, I didn't use my money.
Gotcha.
Let's hear a little bit
Yep.
more. No, you
Um,
can't stop there. You can't leave
I
us on the cliffhanger.
I was just gonna talk about that. A lot of our listeners are probably trying to get in that same process of investing into real estate.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
talk about that first experience, that first property that you got. What was the process like? What are some of the challenges that you face along the
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
and how did you bounce back from that?
Oh man, totally. So starting out fresh out of school, really, and now having a job, we're just new people in real estate. You know? So we're beginners. We didn't know any better. Having to have a coach figure out that process helps a lot because every success of life, every successful they look back on, they have someone that was guiding them throughout the way. And so our coach was someone who was buying 40 to 50 properties a year.
Wow.
You know, they were big investors. And buying a first property required us to earn the money that we didn't have initially, right? So yeah, that was one of the few things that was hindering us from buying our first property. So how are we going to get the money to buy this? And our coach taught us that you can leverage people by using their money as down payment to buy your property for a return of their money. And so it always boils down to the property, because if it makes sense, you're going to attract the right people. You're going to attract the right buyer for that property. It always boils down to the property that you have. So we work backwards, right? While we have the property, okay, now we can dissect how much the property costs to renovate and what's the after return value. We come into these properties with the understanding that we already have an exit plan, which is either refinance or selling it. Because if you know that a property is going to be worth more in the future, it will only make sense for you to buy it now, right? If you had a choice between buying an iPhone for $1,000 versus $1,500 next year, that's a no-brainer. You're going to buy it now and make $500 a year from now. And then by earning this money, so if we didn't have any, we were reaching out to families and friends and really anybody in their phone and ask if they would invest money, a return of their money, for giving out a bunch of money. we got people who invested over 50, 40 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand, but initially we were contacting our friends and family, and people would give us $1,000, $2,000, $4,000.
It goes a long
We
way.
kind of scaled our way to that eventually. You know, because as you build a track record, it's getting easier for you to not want to convince people, but present the idea in a clear sense, right?
Yeah.
And by that time, we were experiencing, it's easier for us to explain to people that this can work. It's like interviewing for a listing, and then you're competing against people who've listed 10, 20 houses around you, but you're a brand new agent. Well, now I actually bought a couple of properties. This is what I can do for you. And let me scale that.
Yeah.
And 2 years has passed, and I realized that we need to rearrange our business, because there was a lot of people involved in this deal. You know, it was a partnership. Someone brought the deal, someone brought the money, someone structured it. There was too many hands in the pot. So we have to get out of that situation. And that's where we are now. We sold this property. Almost 7. One more property.
You said too many hands in the pot. Would you do it again with the same structure that you did it with, like, going through having many people? Because I've heard from previous recommendation, and if you're gonna go on the first deal, you don't want to go in it by yourself, and how many is enough? right? If you were to do it
Man,
all over again, how would you structure that first deal? You know?
yeah. Oh man, it doesn't. I feel like it boils down to the people that you do work with. You got me just fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It comes down to the people that you work with. So your core values have to align with your partner, and that was really the fundamental underlying issue because you didn't really necessarily align with their value, with their perspective on sales and business.
Gotcha.
Would I do it again with the same people? Not, because I know what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
Would I do it again with different types of people who have different values? Of course. Like, if Ryder tells me about a property in North Carolina, I want to go out there and make the time to see what's up. You know, because I align with him and we share a commonality that you otherwise wouldn't get from somewhere ordinary. Like, Roddy and I share a unique connection through our organization. So it really does having to connect with your partner for you to even appreciate the process of buying these properties. Because otherwise you're kind of just doing it for the money. You know, you're not necessarily doing it for the betterment of the people around you, but more so to get an outcome out of it and then take it for yourself. And the most powerful things that come to you are the ones that are selflessly about you. So one of my core beliefs is that the further you dissect your goal away from yourself, the stronger it actually gets. Right?
Yeah.
For example, if you're gonna earn 200K, what are you gonna use that $200,000 for? Is it only for yourself, or are you benefiting your community or your partners, your coworkers? So you transition the idea of earning 200,000 to I'm gonna help 200 people. So now you have a bigger purpose, and it's not money driven. It's not in ways too. It's not really greed because you're giving back to the community.
Yeah.
I always believe that the further you dissect yourself in the goal, the bigger it gets. And I see this from everybody. I mean, Tony Robbins is going to feed 1 million people in a third world country this year. You know? And he was feeding 500,000 people just 2 years ago.
Shit.
And the reason he got that far is because he took a goal that was so selfless of him, beyond him, but other people, that he actually reached it. And it's such a high goal for himself that he found the right people to get to the point of where he is now. So you see, like, the bigger your goal is and the further you are away from it, the greater it is, the greater traction that's going to come to you. Because I never looked at real estate as me having to sell as many homes. I looked at it from a way as I have this knowledge and experience to help someone get from point A to point B through real estate, and I had the power to do that. And it would be selfish of me to keep this for myself, which essentially led me to getting my license in real estate. So I had this experience of buying houses, this ownership, American ownership, the biggest American all over the world, and nobody's sharing that around me. So I took that goal away from myself. I said, look, I'm going to help as many people as I can know about American home ownership. And
Gotcha.
the money comes, but it's not even a question, because it will come.
Yeah. You talk about, having goals further out that will not only benefit you, but also benefit others. And you talk a bit about, just not being motivated by the money. What was your, primary motivation when you got into the business of real estate, and is it still the same now, or did you scale up from that?
Yes. I honestly got into it because I had no motive to do anything at all. Like, it was just open-mindedness. And it goes back to my belief that if bad things happen to me that are the ones that came with uncertain, it's because real estate happened to me out of the blue. It's not like I went out of my way to research about real estate. People came up to me one day and I said yes to it. And there was there's no motive behind it besides
Yeah.
being open to the idea.
Gotcha.
I was just open to understanding the concept, this opportunity, and that was my purpose the whole time. And then when I got further into the investing side, eventually it did get to earning money and getting to that threshold. But again, as things changed along the way, kind of realized more about people. I was understanding that it wasn't really my best interest to do this for the long run. So thankfully, you got my license later on, and then I found a bigger purpose, and that is to help people understand about real estate. And man, believe me, and as many agents as there are, as many social media accounts, there is an unlimited amount of people that you can help. Unlimited. You can look at your phone and help those people, and you can make a living out of it. So it's just coming from a place of abundance. You have to be abundant with the idea of earning money, because otherwise, it's like it's like putting your hands in a bag without any limit. It's just an empty space in there, and that is human greed.
Well,
Your human desire is endless. So coming from a place of abundance, maybe it's gonna come to you naturally. I mean, Ronnie came to me naturally about this opportunity at a time where a lot of things are happening in life.
Now that you're in it, for significant amount of time as a landlord, as a, realtor yourself, how has been the financial literacy in the process for you? You mentioned you did not have any money to even start as an investor. And from that point, you start, earning money and getting a significant amount of money, I'm assuming. Now, managing that and knowing how to navigate the water with money for somebody that did not have that type of money in the past, how has that been for you? What have you learned that could be beneficial to somebody who's listening right now?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be fully transparent that and say that starting a business has its trope, and especially in the first 5 years, you kind of have to invest all the money that you made back into the business. And so for the people that do want to start investing in property, I would suggest you guys to take the simple route. Because I would not advise anybody to find a creative way to buy property if they can buy property in as simple as having a job with good income and having a down payment for it. Why else would you make it complicated to own a property in America? And I think that's one aspect that taught me as I started investing, is that I was taking things too fast. But the best things in life are the ones that take time. And so I'm just embracing the idea of building, because I'm only 3 years into real estate, a year and a half into getting my license, and already I'm making all these friends, all these clients that I'm going to help for the next 20, 30 years, however long.
Yeah.
And financial literacy is the idea of understanding the cost behind it. I think that's the most valuable thing that you can take out of it. Because you have this podcast that Ronnie and I listen to called The Strangest Secret. And their concept is that you can tear a house down and you can build it back up. You can make a wealthy person poor, and they'll know how to make $1 million again. And so I believe that I'm at a stage now where I am understanding the power of wealth and in real estate. And I'm going to get to a point where all I have to do is duplicate it. So right now we're setting the foundations up for the house. This business is the house. Now I have the foundation for it. It's time for me to get my hands dirty and actually start putting in work. And one by one, piece by piece, it's going to start adding up. Honestly, it's taking time, man. I would say if people are going to quit within the first year, they will get gone through this market. In fact, the stat is 87% that we just fail out in the first year. And when you're purpose driven like that, bro, you didn't even think about being part of that 13%.
Yeah.
Don't, like, you're not part of a stat.
Yeah.
You know?
That's fair.
I know, Andre, you have a philosophy where you love making mistakes. And this is part of my due diligence, you know. I had to prepare for this one, but I know that you have a philosophy around making mistakes, and because it gives you an opportunity to grow from it, gives you an opportunity to learn from that mistake. And given that you just talked a lot about business, I kind of want to stay there and ask a question in terms of, you know, what is it that scares you, if it is anything that scares you about business?
Business doesn't scare me. Maybe it's not to the point where I feel like I've experienced so much that nothing can really take that away from me. Because when you allow yourself to feel anxious about your business, you're giving it power to take over your life. And I don't want to give my business the power to take over my personal life. I don't want to like set the I don't want to take away my life so I can build this business up, because that is miserable. And all you can, if all you think about is making money and making the business, and forget about the important stuff, which is what you got for free, you know, your family, your friends, then that's when you feel anxious about your life. And maybe that's why I've been so thankful about being in this position. Because I've always believed that, look, worst case scenario, everything fails out, I have a family to get back on, and I have a country that I can live in for free.
Yeah.
And so, coming with that understanding for myself, I'm basically saying anything freaking possible. Like, I can take this to the moon, or I can take it to the grave. But either way, I'm gonna be happy in that process. Not because I have a safety net, but I'm appreciating the journey throughout the way. You know, because like I said, it's out of your control.
Yeah.
We can set as many goals as we can. We can tell ourselves that by 30 years old, we'll have a family and a baby and a house to live in. But life doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You know, and all these media, all these content, social media content about goals and motivation, powerful. And sometimes you have to be realistic about your life. Like, you're not the same as these people that are working 24/7.
Yeah.
You know, not every car is built the same way. So you just have to make peace with where you are in your life right now, because then you actually start to appreciate it for what it is.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Francis, like, being in this business and thinking about money is definitely difficult in the first few years.
So transitioning from that, just that word in itself, difficult. What would you say is one of the most difficult decisions you had to make to pursue your dream or your goal?
When I start using my money. For a while, I wasn't using my money to run my business, and then I started using my own money and digging further into it. And pretty much where I'm in that position now, where I would describe it as over leveraging.
Right.
You know, I'm over leveraging some things that I have in life. And yes, there's definitely a part of it that's a risk. But when you understand that what they can bring to you, you'll actually come to realize that what's needed to happen.
Yeah.
So think about it, when you don't like the work that you're doing, you don't like the labor work. Let's say, like, you're calling people in the neighborhood, right? A lot of people don't like getting a phone call, but you don't think about the action that you're doing. You're thinking about calling people. You think about the outcome and what it will bring to you. And so, to me, it's the same concept with having to leverage my money. You have to understand that over leveraging can bring anxiety, and in some way you're going over your risk limit. But the outcome of it is what you have to make peace with. Because whether or not it's going to happen, you believe. And faith is what only pushes people beyond these limits. So I have faith in myself that I will succeed. And that's why appreciate the uncertainty because I know that it's out of my control. And I know that if I just be good by people and I do what it is today, things are gonna pan out the way it is. Because life is always gonna come to conclusion the way that it will, no matter what happens.
It
So
sounds
just
like you
embrace it.
have a it sounds like you have a mindset of controlling the controllable, which is something that Ron also shared. And I just wanted for you, you work in an environment where you have to be part of a team, right? How do you manage to cast a wider network for yourself, like surrounding yourself with, like-minded individual, whether they are in real estate or not? How do you go about that realm of putting yourself around the right people, not only in business, but also in your personal life?
Yeah. It takes energy to understand people, and sometimes you have to make the sacrifice, right? Because you don't really know anybody initially. You can make assumptions about them, but let's face it, we're in the sales business, you have to be assumptive. So it's really giving people the opportunity for you to understand them beyond what they perceive themselves through most people. Because once you realize who they are on a deeper level, then you can actually judge for yourself, like, is this someone that I would want to share my energy with, share my surroundings with? Because definitely at that age now in my life where I have to be open-minded with opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm only in my mid-20s, and so far it's been great. I've learned a whole lot about relationships and handling money. So it's the same way with, it's the same thing with, and everything relates to houses. Everything relates to real estate. But in any case, it's just understanding. You ever heard that saying that it's harder to make your first million than the next seat?
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm in the same process. It is difficult to understand how to earn $1 million, but I know that in the other half of my 20s, it's just duplicating it over and over. So my goal is still the same way it is for the first half of my 20s. And I believe that the second half of my life is duplicating that over and over.
Yeah, I want to touch on something really quickly because Andre's saying as far as the listeners, you guys may be listening and thinking, well, he's talking about business and that doesn't correlate to me. But I think everything that he's saying is just on a life aspect, not necessarily just
Right.
business. Because you're saying meeting people or having relationships, just contacting random people out the blue, that's what you do to help your business. But I think this is what we all can do as a collective, as a group, as an individual, because at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want by yourself. You can go very fast by yourself, but if you want to go far, you got to go with a group of people. And sometimes all it takes is you simply saying hi to the next person that you have no idea who they are, for that person to truly indeed maybe change your life. So I know a lot of things that Andre is saying is about business, but it does not just apply to business. I think, I know it applies to everything all across the world and in terms of life, because it's, relationship is people, and it's those that that's really going to take you to that next step despite where it is that you're trying to go. And now, speaking of where you're trying to go, Andre, let's hear it. Where does Andre, what does the future of Andre hold? Like, what does that look like for him?
Oh man. I mean, I'm sharing my energy a lot to people, maybe, and I think it's time to.
Fan.
I believe spiritually things are coming back to you, and if it keeps coming back to you, it's happening for a reason. So, a lot of people have been asking the same thing, and at a time where I believe that I should preserve my golden aspiration, people have been asking me about it, that I started appreciating the idea of spreading it. So, my end goal is be Seattle at some point in the next 5 years. I want to build my business in Jersey, automate it, and then start another business in the West Coast.
In Seattle, not New Orleans.
New Orleans. I can tell you right now, Ronnie, that Now they have a whoa.
we're 12 days late, my boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yo, it's okay, bro. Everybody got everybody on that. But you're really beautiful, I definitely highly recommend if you guys haven't.
Okay. And go ahead, Francis.
I think, we talked about, this is one of the things we talk about real estate. We talk about your business. We talked about how you take care of yourself. Now, in terms of, we're all human beings here. We all navigate the water. We're all trying to leave something here. And one of these days we'll have our offspring carry on the legacy that we're trying to plant here, whether it's in real estate or any other industry that you're in. What do you think, for you, based on the experiences that you have encountered, the world we need more out of? We need more in the world, to kind of better this environment for you. Like, what would be one of those things that you see? You're like, oh, I think the world would benefit from this, whether it's an experience, whether it's a tool, like literally anything. Because we're all here to contribute to each other's success. So I just want to see from a realtor perspective, what have you seen or experienced that,
Yeah. Maybe that's the biggest lesson that I learned in business is that we do create the urgency to things. And I was reading a book recently, and they were talking about the sickness. And it's the idea of wanting to be everywhere, but never being somewhere. So your mind is all over the place. Well, your present self is not present to the surroundings around you at where you are now. Because your mind is running either too much of the past or the future. And it's called creative sickness. You're never in one place because you're always trying to be everywhere. And honestly, I understand because I'm in the busiest area of New Jersey. I'm right next to New York City. And New York City is one of the fastest moving places in the world. I've always believed that if someone can make it out of here, they can make it anywhere. And maybe it's that mentality that definitely affected people's present wellness. There's an environment where people are trying to get places as fast as they can. It's almost impossible for you to stay present where you are. So understanding the idea that being present is actually the most powerful thing you can do for yourself. It's also the most powerful thing you can do for your future and for your past. The thing about it, if you look back in the past, you don't want to look back and say, well, I was thinking about the future so much rather than the present. And the same concept in the future. You don't want to think about the future so much that by the time you look back, you're like, I was thinking about the progress that I am now.
It's
and I
funny.
totally understand.
It's funny you say that. It's like you almost listened to our previous episode.
Yeah, I do my homework too.
That's good.
There you go.
Man.
That's good.
And it's definitely appreciating that too, because that's like the same thing with life, right? Like out of your control. It's totally out of your control, like how things unfold in your life. But if you make peace with the idea that you don't have to be thinking about your future all the time, but just to be where you are, you're actually doing your future self a favor.
Yeah.
And you're making peace with your past self too. And a lot of people are afraid of being alone with their thoughts. Right? You ever somebody say they like working because if they don't work,
Yeah, they go crazy.
You're crazy. And the practice of embracing solidarity and peacefulness, that's what was the root of your happiness. You think about it. How are you going to be happy with working for something and keeping yourself occupied when you can't even be happy with having nothing and being by yourself? So it's contradicting for you to actually build something and make a better person of yourself if you're not happy with the person that you are now and the surroundings that you are in. And the idea of embracing the present come to the idea that you're happy with the stage of your life. It's a better word. Everybody going through it. Everybody got issues, right? And even the richest person has their own issues too. So that idea alone should make you realize that you don't necessarily need to get where you need to be happy, to feel a certain way, because you have all the things that you need already. And part of the practices, breathing has been helping me a lot. Having a steady morning routine and ending it with breathing. So having to go to the gym, work out, eat, and shower, and end it with meditation before I start the day. I already felt like I made a day. So to me, nothing else matters when I've already took care of myself for that day.
Gotcha.
And it's just appreciating it. Like, this is the progress that I need to do. And the happier you are with your present progress, the happier your future self will be.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. That's all I had.
Yeah. Okay. So you're still a young guy, but for anyone that, at least you're younger than me. So for anyone that may be listening, or at least for your younger self, what would you say to yourself?
Man, I would say, grow that hair out as soon as possible. That thing is cute. And it costs less money. I was getting haircuts. Crazy. Like, to be honest with you, I always thought about that, like what I would tell myself. I think I'm gonna say keep on. You know, I'll just keep doing what I needed to do at that time of my life. Because I've always liked the idea. I've always embraced the idea of things happening at that point of your life for a reason. So if there's anything I would have said to myself, it would have been, keep doing what you need to do. Keep doing what you think you need to do. Because even though in most times I didn't have an idea of what I should be, it led me to better places unexpectedly. And to me, I was to tell myself an advice before then. It's pretty much putting a perspective of urgency to that part of my life. So it's like reassuring myself, well, I need to be this or that. But instead, I can just tell myself, you're doing great, like doing what you need to do. You know, don't ever doubt your actions.
Yeah.
And I wish I could tell them like how it led me to this point in my life. Well, honestly, I would keep it as a secret. So I keep going, man. You got it.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap things up, we like to ask all of our guests this one last question. And and this is the one question where if you did your due diligence, you'll know what's coming. But if you didn't, then we're going to get you. You're going to have to think on the spot right now. It gets a lot of people thinking, but what do you think is the number one thing holding people back from reaching their full potential?
It definitely comes down to your doubt.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are so uncertain about something that they try to look at it from all sides of perspective. And before they know it, they already missed the opportunity to make a decision. And I've been advising my friends, like, look, if you ever feel like you need help with coming up with decisions, you don't really need anybody but your inner self, your higher self. And one practice that I've done is when I'm making big decisions, I try to just hold my eyes and take a deep breath. Then ask a question in my head. And then the first voice that comes to my head, I follow it. I don't question it. I just follow it. And time and time again, it brought me to better places. Like, it brought me to temporary places that I don't want to be. But in the end, it always works out. So I've been practicing that so much lately. I used to be the type of person to be so worried about the future, you know. I mean, after all, we get to college. Like, college is all about passing classes, they can get your degree. So people kind of accustom themselves to the same mentality after college. Like, oh, I have to do this and that to my resume for me to get my bag.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it always works out in the end. no matter the outcome, it's always gonna work out. So I like the idea of just taking things simple. You know, there's an old saying in real estate, and really benefits it. You ever heard the term KISS?
Yeah. Keep it stupid simple.
Keep it super simple, boy. Same thing in life.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
it simple.
So with that
Well-
being said, like, where can the people really find you? How could they reach out to you if they need to get a little bit more guidance, if they want to go ahead and invest in real estate, or they just want to say, hey, I want to challenge you on your thought process on this, Andre?
Well, man, the best way to follow my journey is through my Instagram. My full name plus my middle name, Andre Salvador, and I post it regularly.
Yeah.
Document my life. That's just the person behind it.
Perfect. We'll go ahead and leave it in the descriptions below as well. If you don't want to kind of replay it and just listen every time, we got you covered there. But I definitely want to say thank you for tapping in with us, giving us a little bit of your time to share a little bit of your story. We appreciate you for being here. And of course, for the people listening at the current moment, thank you for staying to the end, because most people don't make it to the end. So if you do,
Yeah.
go ahead and give yourself a pat on the back.
Yeah.
Wherever you're listening to, don't forget to show love to the show. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified when we do these videos. And if you're on the audio versions, don't forget to leave us those reviews. We love hearing back from you guys, getting those feedbacks on how we can go ahead and create the show to be a little bit better for you guys. Because, you know, everything we preach over here is about growing with us. And, of course, unleashing your power to transform your reality. So, till next time, keep on applying those perspectives. Keep on applying those perspectives, education, growth, and collaboration, y'all.